Welcome to Still Stella, living life sarcastically.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Still Stella, living life sarcastically. Happy Thursday, y'all. Today we're going to talk about childhood and generation flashbacks. Generation flashbacks, some good, some bad. These are all the things that make up our personalities and foster how we deal with situations as an adult. I used to always tell my kids, you've got it easy. But of course they wouldn't really know because they didn't grow up in a small town in the South working in the fields. Our childhood was a little tough, but we definitely learned to have a strong work ethic. And I'm not saying that our kids didn't also have rough times. I just think they honestly believe some of our stories couldn't possibly be true. You know, like far-fetched fiction. All I can say is things are way different than they were when we were young. I'm not saying it's better, just different. There was never a deficiency of work to be done. We had fields of vegetables to work and harvest. We spent many hours out there. Then during harvest time, there was the processing of all the items to can or freeze them, so we'd have food in the winter to carry us through. It was a lot of work as well, but now I look back and I'm really kind of thankful for some of those lessons I learned. I've been able to do the same and make some great meals with things I preserve for future use. Unlike childhood, now it's fun to do these things. Younger me would scoff in disbelief at my enjoyment. I remember hiding outside in the woods with my siblings so our parents wouldn't put us to work. We'd hang out there for hours on end, trying to build forts, tree houses, or just plain dig holes in the ground and cover them with straws to trap unsuspecting brothers. Sorry, bro. I was kind of an ass when we were kids. You know it's true. We worked hard and played even harder when we got the chance. We'd have bottle rocket wars and we'd fight like Vikings. We didn't always have a lot, but I remember at one point in our childhood, we had an old go-kart. You haven't lived until you've stood on the back of a go-kart while your brother is driving like a madman through a gravel pit. There are many days I wonder how we survived at all. If I shared some of the current luxuries of life to younger me, she'd probably just be like, really? There's no way. You know, kind of like those movies about going to the future with flying cars. Look out, Doc. DeLorean coming through like a rocket. Back in the day, we said things like, as if, whatever, psych, talk to the hand, and gag me with a spoon. My brother loved to say gag me with a spoon, so one day I did just that. I grabbed a spoon and proceeded to gag him. He didn't appreciate it too much, but it was funny as hell. Yeah, I know it's twisted, but we had to entertain ourselves somehow, and thankfully he survived it with no real permanent damage. Our generation had bright neon shirts, acid wash jeans, band t-shirts, combat boots, and parachute pants. We accessorized with neon colors, bandanas, and who could forget the Swatch watches? You know, with all those bright colors and designs. We also had crimped hair with our bangs reaching the sky from tons of that Aquanet. That stuff created the strongest structural integrity that could withstand the winds of a hurricane. We were a walking fire hazard, I swear. When we wanted to get a tan, we laid out in the sun with sunning in our hair and baby oil on our skin. That was, of course, when we could get some time to ourselves to actually just hang out. We did not have the luxury of streaming and choosing which shows to watch next. We were held captive by the programming available on our TVs. There was no opportunity to binge watch a series and get through a whole season in just one sitting. You literally had to wait until the next episode came out. We grew up on shows like Facts of Life, Family Ties, The Simpsons, MASH, Cheers, and Married with Children. Married with Children was always one of my dad's favorites, which was full of cynical humor, defining a generation. Quite frankly, I think he identified way too well with Al Bundy. There's no wonder I'm full of sarcasm with this type of role model. And do you remember Schoolhouse Rock? Schoolhouse Rock was educational animated short videos with, catchy tunes, and it aired on Saturday mornings during our cartoons. Remember Conjunction Junction, what's your function? We all remember these, and you know what I'm talking about. If you know it, I bet you also just started singing it too. I know I do. The tunes were so catchy that you'd sing them all the time, every time they came on. They were teaching us lessons without us even knowing it. They covered all kinds of topics. VCRs were the only way to schedule shows. We would have to record something when it played at a certain scheduled time on TV, and then we could watch it later. The video cassettes were bulky, and it was horrible when the VCR would eat the tape. This meant it got stuck, and it usually, unfortunately, meant you'd have to cut the tape to get it out, and it was now in the trash. Then came DVDs, DVRs, and now we have streaming, which is one of the coolest things. Now we can go watch whatever we want, whenever we want. Talk about being spoiled rotten. We were raised in an analog childhood and brought into a digital adulthood. We had to constantly learn new technology. Everything was revolutionized from phones, TV, computers, and even radio. We had to grow up without all these luxuries, and I'm quite thankful for all these cool innovations these days. Before music streaming, MP3s, and CDs, we had cassette tapes. These damn cassettes would get caught up in the player, and the tape would come out. It would just come out of it, giving you a total panic attack that you were about to lose whatever music you'd patiently recorded on it. You'd grab a pencil and we'd rewind it by twisting the pencil in the center until we got it all back inside the case. Oh, thank goodness. No tear. Crisis averted. When we wanted to record music, we would have to call the radio station and request a certain song and wait for it to be brought through the whole broadcast, poised and ready to hit that record button on the cassette player if it came on. I wonder how many hours were spent sitting with my finger on that button, just waiting for the right song. We also didn't have cell phones to carry around with us. Some days I miss this part. Being able to be left alone with no one able to reach you. Gone are the days of avoiding those calls. We did not have texting or FaceTime. We had one of those rotary phones hanging on the wall, usually in the kitchen. The kind where it had the wheel for the numbers and you had to drag it around to dial the number you wanted to call and then do it again. We thought we were so lucky when we finally got one of those that had push buttons instead of the rotary dial. We were living it up. If you were lucky, the phone had a super long cord so you could snake it around into the living room on the floor to have some privacy. Privacy. What a joke. Who am I kidding? We had no privacy. Do you remember party lines? You'd have to coordinate to make a call around other people on the line since the line was shared with other houses. And in some cases, they'd listen in on your conversations. Sure took the fun out of gabbing on the phone, knowing you had to watch what you say and who you said it to. Besides, you couldn't spend time tying up the line anyway. This was before call waiting. Talk about a great invention. Back in the day, if you were on the phone, there was no other line to click over to. And if you were already on the phone, the caller would just get a busy signal and you would never even know they called. This means if you were on the phone and someone important was trying to reach the adults, you were in trouble for tying up the line. This is why we didn't get to sit on the phone too much. These days, people talk all day and or all night, even fall asleep on the phone together. Now that's dedication. I'm kind of more of a texter these days. I don't feel the need to talk for hours on end. I can send you a quick message and then you can answer me when you have time. When people call on the phone, I have to wonder, are they insane? Just hang up and text me. There was no social media back in the day, just social gatherings. You actually had to go visit people to talk to them. And if your plans changed midstream and you'd already left your house, you were pretty much screwed and out of luck because we didn't have a phone to call someone to change plans. You were just stuck waiting somewhere until someone showed up or possibly didn't show up at all. When our family went to gatherings, the adults were in one place and the kids in another. You ever hear that phrase, children should be seen and not heard? Well, we did. We heard this phrase all the time. And we knew it meant to go outside and play, leaving the adults to talk. Honestly, it sounds worse than it was, because quite frankly, we all wanted nothing more to do than to be far away from the adults anyway. We wanted to run wild and play in the streets. More importantly, we didn't want to do any more chores. We didn't have computers in our house until I was an adult. There was no email or paying bills online. You wrote checks and put them in envelopes to mail them to wherever they needed to go. Now, I know some people still do this, but honestly, I haven't mailed a check in years. Some say it was a simpler time, but honestly, I'm thankful for every bit of technology to enrich and help us through the day. We had Pong as our video game, where you just basically play ping pong on a low-resolution video game. You know, just pressing that button to hit the ping back to the other player, and then they'd hit it back to you. These days, there are role-playing games with complete detail and a whole other world. Missions and tasks in another universe. You can even play together online, another social activity we did not have. We could only play with one other person and sitting right next to us. Then we got Pac-Man. Oh, we loved that one. And then came Miss Pac-Man. Nothing like eating ghosts to make your day. We may not have had all these great things to start out, but we had one thing other generations didn't get to enjoy. MTV, music television. This was back in the day when they actually played music around the clock. Music videos played non-stop. A teenager's dream of badass music videos. Then there was the late Saturday nights, Headbangers Ball, which featured heavy metal and hard rock videos with bands like Motley Crue, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Skid Row, and Poison. We couldn't wait to sneak to the living room to watch it with the volume turned down really low while the adults were sleeping. If they went out, we'd be rocking it loud and enjoying every minute of it. We lived a latchkey life, which means we came home to an empty house and had to cook and clean, as well as do our homework. Chores were a large part of our lives, and we had to get them done, or else. We thrived in a survival mode, and when we had the opportunity to be outside playing, we stayed gone until the street lights came on. I swear, our parents had no idea where we were, and thank goodness we survived it. Once we were teenagers and got out more, there were many times we were at bonfires in the woods somewhere. Who knows where? Thankfully, we survived and made it home. Not always sure how we did, though. I remember one time my brother and I went to the store, which was a few miles away. He was on his bike and I was on foot. I remember him enjoying the ride while I was just trying to catch up most of that time. Before we left, he had had his bike turned upside down and he was working on it, which meant he took the front wheel off and put it back on. On our way back from the store, he went flying down that big hill halfway to our house, laughing at me having to walk. That is, of course, until that front wheel flew off and he went tumbling down the hill. The next thing I remember was being in the house with him, sitting in the recliner, and everyone was asking him if he was okay. He didn't remember a thing. I think he hit his head pretty hard. So he appeared to be fine, and it was back to whatever was going on beforehand. No emergency room, no MRIs, just, hey, you okay? Get back outside and play. We were tough and could take a beating, both literally and figuratively. I wonder how many brain cells we lost in that chaotic childhood. How many times did we hit our heads? Too many to count, I'm sure. We were pretty feral. Maybe that's why we are so crazy. Or maybe it's why we're such smartasses. Our sarcasm developed from being the forgotten generation. We grew up with little to no supervision, which has resulted in a somewhat feral yet independent attitude. This point of view is peppered with a lot of whatever attitude and a shit ton of sarcasm. I think this is what helped us all survive into adulthood. Sometimes it seems like we are negative and unhappy. We're not really negative or unhappy. We're just coping and thriving with every smart-ass response. Please take a moment to follow or subscribe so you're notified when the next episode is available. New episodes are available every Thursday. Let's have fun together, and please share this chaos with all your friends.
Thank you for listening to Still Stella, Living Life Sarcastically.